What's up, guys? Episode 34. You have questions, we have answers. Let's get into it. Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Blake Rodriguez with Dream Come True Canine, and this is episode 34 of Dog Behavior Question Tuesday. Have not read the questions. We're going to jump right into this and get the ball rolling. We have a super busy day, lots of things to do. So first question is going to be from Chelkrek. All right, let's give this a shot. What's your advice for a 4-year-old Akita Shiba who has had hardly any socialization and appears to display lots of fear, anxiety when around new things, especially noises? I was watching your Ruby videos and I think flooding could work well. Is that what you would do in this situation? He either cries or redirects when we're around these scary things. Sometimes I wonder if the prong overstimulates him. Okay, this is actually a fantastic question. I'm gonna try to get into this in a little bit of detail. Andrew, keep an eye out for the door because I know Abby's going to be coming and I don't know if she has a key. I mean, if she does, then it's fine, whatever. But okay, let's look at this. First off, the Akita Shiba thing doesn't matter as much as what we need to do. First, let's jump right into everything. We got to have our foundations in place, right? Our levels of communicating through the leash, a dog that will at least work for us for food, a dog that has somewhat of a relationship with us. We want to build that first before we try to be the people that take them into a scary situation that we know they're scared of. So let's build that up a little bit, right? Once we get there, when you're putting the dog in situations, let's say it's a form of flooding. Flooding is not always bad. A lot of people talk badly about flooding. You can use flooding in a lot of inappropriate situations, but as long as you're able to control the floodgates or control the volume of flooding, then I think it could be very, very valuable. Flooding is a natural thing that's going to occur, especially here in New York City for us when we have dogs. Dogs have to learn to kind of to get with the flow, but we want to make sure that we're not out in the middle of Times Square where we can be like somewhere that's a little bit more quiet in New York. So for you, if the dog is not doing well around other dogs, and you didn't say, you just said under socialized. Let's go ahead and double check. Redirects around scary things. The first thing that you have to do is you have to make sure that you can be in a situation using a form of flooding, but not having her overwhelmed. Nope. Come here. Hey. Place. Good. Sit. Good. Down. Not having overwhelmed. Down. Her overwhelmed to a point where like you're pushing too much. So that might mean that like movement might help you. A dog might be too jumpy and too like startling on movement, so you have to work on shutting the dog down and getting a dog to hold a position. You might be by like a baseball field during a baseball game that's over there and you're on a bench far away and you decide to eat your lunch. You might be at a position where you can't really eat your lunch because you have to be on display with her. If it was a dog that wasn't good with other dogs and I was in this socialization room, I would have a stockyard whip and I would keep other dogs away from her. I would also have somewhat of a relationship where I know I can control the pack around her. That way she can be in the environment without being overwhelmed by people that want to say hi, right? So you have to like, good job, buddy, systematically like work toward the challenge and get her to realize that when you're going to put her in these situations, like one, it's happening, but two, you're also going to be considerate about what the dog needs. Okay, we're not going to overwhelm you with this, that, and the third. This is what's going to happen. You're going to be here. Dogs aren't going to bother you. People aren't going to bother you, but they are going to be around. They're not going to be walking right over you. They might be walking on this path. We're going to be over here. The more you kind of get into that rhythm and you have that regularly successful, then you begin to push little by little, okay? So flooding can absolutely be good. You just have to make sure you're in a place where you can protect and direct and advocate for your dog, where if you can't control the environment, at least the environment can go on over there and not to where you are. That's very important. Next is going to be from Wolfpack245. Leash reactivity in a super dog-friendly dog. When on the leash with prong collar, she barks at some other dogs. I lead her away from them if we're walking, but specifically when waiting at the bus stop with another dog who is aggressive towards her, I stay as far away as I can, but she pulls and barks. The prong collar doesn't affect her in that moment. Does she need more impulse control? Thanks for the help, Blake, always. There's a couple things you have to look at. It sucks when you have the other dog that is being a jerk. So you do want to utilize space, but you want to really control angling. Control angling of where the dog is sitting. Is the dog facing, kind of focusing on you? Are you on the opposite side of the distraction, or are you in between the distraction? If this is my dog that is, are they in the frame here? Okay, so if this is, let's talk about Samson. So if Samson is in, I didn't even go around and say who everybody was here. We'll do that after this. Is my dog, and he's being aggressive or reactive toward him, I want to be on this side so I can get Samson's waist or hips to either be facing this way or facing this way. I cannot allow him to be sitting and facing this way, right? So I don't want to be in between him and the distraction. I want to be on the opposite side to give him a choice and say, listen, you can choose to focus on that, which is over here, or you can choose to focus on me. And in the beginning, I'm kind of not really giving you a choice. So it's kind of like being a solid parent. You can ask a child, what do you want for breakfast, and give them the option that's entirely up to them, or you can say, what do you want for breakfast? You get to choose, and then you can give them two choices. So you have to make the choices very, very clear. Even here with the distraction, I need her to not focus on over there. So that was my touch. I was on the opposite side. I said, don't focus on this over here. Focus on me, and then learn how to settle. You need to be a bigger distraction than your dog, and that might mean you need to be farther away, or your leash pressure needs to be a little bit easier. You shouldn't be correcting your dog and having correction where they're feeling it and they're still able to do this. We have to speak more clear. You have to basically teach your dog that like she or he is better than that and nothing else matters. They could be attacking you from all sides. You're better than that. I don't have time for that. That's what the dog has to learn. So more impulse control for sure, but clearer communication through the leash and better timing on your end as well, okay? That stuff takes time. That's a trial and error thing. I don't think you can hear this and then all of a sudden be good at it. You got to practice it and practice it and practice and drill it and drill it and drill it, right? High five for K9's. Hi, Blake. I really enjoy all the great info on your pages as of late. As of late? What do you mean as of late? Were we messing up before? I'm just kidding. My pup had a setback recently since my backyard backs onto a public trail, and there's been a lot of extra action with dogs and people passing by. I haven't heard this question asked yet, but I'm hoping you can give some tips on how to stop backyard territorial aggression. Her stress because of the activity behind the yard is negatively affecting her overall impulse control on walks too. Is there something that you'd recommend using a bark collar for her? I keep her on a leash and supervise now if outside. Also, I consider blocking the chain link fence to reduce her vision. Couple things you can do. You gotta be able to stop when the fuse is being lit. It's the initial concern. It's first concern and then reaction or response, right? You need to be able to stop that in the moment. And if you can't watch that or supervise that, don't have her in the backyard alone. If you have her on leash, help the leash bring relevance to the remote collar that you use and show her what it should be doing. That remote collar and that leash should be an extension of you, and you're saying something so the dog learns how to listen to that versus feeling it and still focusing on that. Your dog might need a stronger correction once the communication is known, where you completely take that option off limits. Yeah, there's stuff that goes on back there. I understand that. We can't control that. You can't control that. It's going to happen whether you like it or not. This is what you can do, and this is how you can deal with it, right? So you can't necessarily correct them from being concerned, but you can show them how to cope with being concerned. I don't have to worry. This happens. Let me get used to this happening, all right? That's very, very, very important. Jake, good boy. So that's super, super, super important. I would say get the remote collar communication a bit clearer. That way you can call your dog, you can yell at your dog through the remote, you can get your dog's attention and then lower the remote and then call them over, but you can 100% take that option off the table. You are not allowed to be concerned. I will let you know because you will get a summons or a ticket from me that will be an expensive ticket once I've already let you know what the speed limit here is. So that's very important for you guys to understand. It's one thing to give someone a harsh speeding ticket when they never knew what the speed limit was. It's one thing to practice every day and remind them, hey, this is the speed limit, this is the speed limit, and have signs posted regularly. That way, when they break the law and they're speeding, you could say, hey, you knew better. Here's your correction. Here's your speeding ticket, right? So make sure all that stuff is known first, and then your dog has to take you more seriously and know that that's off the table. Every time they think about it, they go, oh yeah, that person told me already. Okay, cool. That's where we gotta get with the dog, right? Melina Brown, hi Blake, I have a 7-year-old small terrier who is scared of everything. He's very cool with staying in place and he listens to me, but he jumps out of his skin sometimes. He only lets me or my mom touch him at all though. He allows the vet to treat him and he's not aggressive. I have always just let him be, and over the years that he has been with me, he has come out of his shell a lot, but he can't seem to come out of his shell completely. It seems like he has adrenaline rushes. I took him as a foster after he failed from 2 other fosters. What's the question here? And he's sort of a permanent foster. I give him so much love and let him be himself. You don't want him to be himself, not yet, because his version of himself is what you want to change. He doesn't know who he is. He's acting like something that he doesn't need to be. I'm wondering if you think that a program like what you were doing for Bella would work for him, potentially. You might be able to learn a lot from what we're doing with Bella, and you might not need it, but it definitely would help. It wouldn't hurt, let's put it that way. Let's see. I'm not sure if it might be too much for him. I could put him on meds, but he seems okay within this setting, but he doesn't though. That's the important thing, which I can provide and have a room to do. I just wonder if you think that it's okay for a small dog who does okay and just lives his life in the pack, is really happy, or if he could have a more full life, if he could be more like other dogs. It's almost like he has some mental illness. I gave his brother, who is the same, geez, you're writing me a story here, who is the same, I don't like to read people, the same, but has really bonded strongly with me and took on the job of farm dog. That he had a huge, they had a huge trauma as puppies in the woods in the South, and one brother has worked it out on the farm, herding my chickens. This is Tobias. He is inside dog who is scared of everything. There's no such thing as an inside dog, but he loves me, but he can be jumpy. Your dog is an anxious wreck. That's I'll tell you right now. We need to properly start exposing. The dog needs to be pushed more. The dog feeling comfortable with shelter and a bubble isn't necessarily a dog coming out of its shell. It might be a good start to create a little bit of a bubble in the beginning, but we have to expand that bubble and what's inside that bubble. That's very, 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 very important. So I believe that everything, who was that? I believe that everything that we're doing for Bella is what you can be applying for this dog as well, but it's not an overnight thing. It takes time, right? Losing weight isn't an overnight thing. Putting on muscle isn't an overnight thing. And then once you start making progress, maintaining that road of progression is also not an overnight thing. So it does take a little bit of time. I think it takes a little bit of revamping of what we nurture and what we allow and how we push. Pushing is almost like stretching out or blowing a balloon up. If you blow too much too soon, you'll pop the balloon, and we don't want that. But you have to blow a little bit hard, and then all of a sudden it gets a little bit easier, and you can kind of match that pace and then know where that limit of that balloon is, right? And that's what we kind of have to do with your dog, but we have to make sure that everything's being nurtured in the right way inside the house, and we can start challenging the dog inside the house first, and then take those known concepts and start to bring them outside. So It's not a super simple answer, but the answer is yeah, it could be helped. I personally am not a fan of meds. I just don't see them work. I've seen them work during or help during a weaning off process, but I'm just not a huge fan. I'm just not a huge fan. It's just this whole like cult of people that like use one-way limited only methods that don't work, and then they go, we're going to pass you on to a professional, which they label as a veterinary behaviorist, which basically means that they can't do anything either, but they do have the authority to prescribe you something. It's just not a fix. So I'm not a fan of the meds, but we have to challenge the dog more in different ways, and there's different ways to go about that. It could be pack walks. There's so many different things. So we have to look at the details a little bit more of not the story of the dog. The story of the dog doesn't matter, but the reality of what we're dealing with and what we have to work with. That's how we're going to move on. We have to be able to move on from the story and then help the dog in the current reality situation. All right? Good job, buddy. Wow, that is it. That was episode 34. Thank you guys so much. For those of you that don't know, a lot of people have been asking, how do we ask our questions so that we get them answered on this show? You have to like us, or is it follow on Instagram? You have to follow us on Instagram, and then what you'll be on the lookout for is usually anywhere from Friday to Sunday, there's a specific post that says, ask your dog behavior question here. When you ask it there, we'll answer it on the episode for that week. So next week is going to be episode 35, and we welcome any dog behavior related question. All right, guys, thanks for watching.